Hello. I just saw an odd collection of statements there. So we're going to do well. I mean, all sorts of everything in the news at the moment is fairly bad. Um, I just saw two odd ones there. It was M saying sound check. We don't want a muted bias, and then Chris saying he's probably already rigging the midterms. I'm thinking, do you mean me? I'm assuming you mean Trump in this case, and Trump will absolutely be doing that because if the midterms next year or anything. I mean, we'll be clear here. There's a lot of very tribal voting in America. It's the country is very polarized. So it's not like there's going to be this massive swing against Trump in theory. However, I do wonder if because he's making so many enemies so quickly, including of the ones you really wouldn't think he'd be wanting to again, like US farmers, American farmers, they've been out. I mean, I'm going to have to do. I've done several videos on the plight of US farmers at the hands of Trump, because how can you not? Because farmers traditionally vote Republican or vote very right wing, depending on which country they're in, and indeed, farmers made a big deal of voting for Trump, despite the fact he screwed them over in his first term, and despite the fact he was actively promising to screw them over in his second term. But they've been out again, making it really clear. I'll do a video on it sometime tomorrow or the day after or something, but making it really clear that, Trump is not helping them. That he wants plaudits for this bailout. If you have to give a bailout is for an emergency, right? You give a bailout where some businesses or people are financially ruined by an emergency, so it's to stop them facing financial ruin. But what was the bailout needed? His policies. But I do wonder, like the way things are set up next year, Trump's just going to get much worse. But then you also think, but the worse he gets, the greater the backlash becomes, because he's not targeting. If you think about the rise of fascists traditionally, we're obviously most familiar with the likes of, well, the most familiar rise of fascism that most of us will be aware of is in Nazi Germany. But you had other fascists in Europe as well. And they did it by targeting particular groups. You target a group in society, whereas Trump seems to be targeting everyone. So I do wonder if he's, is he? I mean, he can't rig the midterms to the point where he actually just decides what those results are. He can try. He can try and get the National Guard to see ballot boxes and things like that. That could be interesting. Rob, they're saying Trump not well, is he? No, Trump's not well. That's another thing. I mean, it's what goes first. Is there a backlash that clips his wings next year? Does it get to the point where no one can deny his physical and cognitive decline? Because although he keeps taking the piss, and he's been doing it again this week, I gather, taking the piss out of Biden, Sleepy Joe, all that sort of stuff. And again, I will just say, the people who concealed that from the public when Joe Biden was declining, the people who concealed that from the public did not do America any favours, because as a result of it, Trump's now in power as a result of their stupidity. But the same thing is very obviously happening to Trump. He's falling asleep in meetings, like clearly falling asleep in meetings. We've had for some time the bruising on his hand that they've tried to cover up with makeup. And when they get called out over it, it's like, oh, it's because he shakes hands all the time. It's like, yeah, a lot of people do. And yes, when you're old, you are going to bruise more easily. Sure, absolutely. But why cover it up then? And it's not even like they do a good job of covering it up. Surely the US president can afford a decent makeup artist, right? Who'll cover it up with the right, something that's got the right skin tone. We know he's got issues with pooling of blood. That's out in public. So he's got physical problems. I mean, he's old. He's got, and as president, even though Trump is not carrying out as many engagements And sometimes you don't see him for days at a time, which is unusual for him because he understands the importance of always being on the telly to always drive the headlines. So when he doesn't say anything for a few days, I think that's suspicious, more suspicious than it would be for a different president, right? So I think he's having huge problems. He's clearly got mental decline. He's been declined. I mean, he wasn't clever to begin with. He wasn't clever to begin with. But he just goes off on mad tangents now. But so yeah, I keep thinking to myself, what happens in the next year? Does he somehow get through it? Does he actually manage to rig the midterms enough? Just because he's trying to, and just because he might, in theory, be able to, doesn't mean he will remember. He's not clever. I don't think a lot of the people around him are clever. You know, there's even Stephen Miller, who you would think is probably clever, has slipped up a few times. J.D. Vance slips up all the time, although I doubt he's involved in any of the administrative rigging of elections, however they intend to do it, mostly by voter suppression. The problem with trying to rig them via voter suppression, though, is it can just, in a tight contest, it can tilt the odds in your favour by making it more difficult. Because, just like in this country, local Conservative, Labour, Lib Dem parties and so on, they know how the votes are spread around their constituency because they go around canvassing, right? And they ask how people are likely to vote and on a rank, scale of 1 to 10. So you get to build up, without nicking anyone's data, you just ask them for it. You get to build up a bit of a map of streets and how people in different postcodes are more likely to vote, right? So America will, of course, have this as well. That the Republicans will absolutely have this information. And they will know which districts, which individual streets even, which blocks, are more likely to vote Democrat. And all they have to do, particularly if it's in a Republican state, all they have to do is make it more difficult for those people to vote by, and they've already been doing a bit of this, making it more difficult to do postal voting, and then on the day, not putting out enough ballot boxes or having excessive security, for example, in certain areas, so it takes you too long to get to the ballot box and then you run out of time. There's all sorts of things you can do that will just nudge the odds in your favour. But if Trump loses the support of, is he going to do that in areas that mostly vote Republican? Well, no, he's not going to do that. But what if there's a big swing against him in those areas as well? So, don't imagine just because he's clearly trying to steal the elections next year and that he's got the whole power of the state and Congress don't seem to be doing a lot to stop it and the Supreme Court certainly don't seem to be doing a lot to stop it. Don't imagine that it will definitely work. It may not work. And also, if people can get out and about, if activists can get out and about and warn people that this is what's going on and why it's, and help them to make sure that they're registered, that they haven't been taken off the electoral register, and get out and vote, you may well find that natural Trump supporters, like you often get this in politics. So if the government's not doing very well, then your natural supporters don't necessarily vote for someone else. They just may not vote at all because the attitude is, I'm not really happy and you're not inspiring me to go out and vote at all. So you might find a lot of your own natural supporters stay at home. And ones who are minded to vote against the government are fired up to do just that. So that could be interesting. But that's the midterms, and that's a long way off. That's another year away, almost 11 months away. And then after that, if it does go badly against Trump, then we're going to have some interesting times because there will be moves to block the new representatives and maybe senators from taking their seats, won't there? We've seen that already with special elections. So, but there's other things, as I say, coming online. It's now going to be interesting to see how Europe responds, Because I mean, I said in the video yesterday or the day before, whenever it was, the reason yesterday, wasn't it? The reason for Trump attacking Europe is ultimately it comes down to Europe's resistance to big tech doing exactly what it wants, right? And in the UK, we have a difficult game to play there because we're not as strong as the EU. We know that. We cannot withstand pressure as easily. And yet, I'm going to do a video on this at some point. I've lost it. There's a story in The Guardian this evening. I don't know if people have seen it. YouTube channels spreading fake anti-Labour videos viewed 1.2 billion times in 2025. So this is basically AI videos. And what they're doing is they're presenting false news. You know how sometimes I will say, some of the shit that the mainstream media get away with in their headlines. I'll say, they'll post these headlines that are really badly misleading. And then usually if you read the article, it sort of covers, if you read it critically, you'll see they reveal the truth there. And that's disgusting enough, but that's nothing. You'll have people on YouTube who think they can do whatever they like, who will just present completely fake news. Like literally, I mean, and some of it's utterly ridiculous. You think, well, how are they getting away with that? How are they getting views for that? And it'll be things that literally say something like Keir Starmer arrested. Or, protesters drag Keir Starmer out of Downing Street. You get stories like that cropping up. And I've not actually seen them on YouTube. YouTube actually do have measures to sort of take them down, although it's not perfect. The Guardian notes that they found more than 150 anonymous channels using these AI tools to spread false stories, specifically about Labour. I mean, there'll be one spreading false stories about others as well, remember. This is specifically about Keir Starmer and Labour. And when they reported them to YouTube took them down. But that means they had to be reported to YouTube. So YouTube systems aren't perfect, but they are better than most. The reason why I know a lot of this stuff is going on without having to read this article is because I see it on Twitter where it's never taken down. You get this stuff on Twitter. Some of it's as advertisements. Some of it I see as sponsored posts where it's presenting something that's clearly fake. And it's designed. They don't even present it as fake news. It's not. It's mocked up to look like a BBC headline and stuff. And I worry. And we're going to need to deal with this because I keep warning. I mean, I don't need to tell you. I'm sure you're aware. If you think about AI now, it's getting a lot better, and you think, so hang on a minute, we're still 3.5 years away from the election. How good is AI going to be in 3.5 years? What's going to happen in the campaign if people, and it will be flooding, right? At the moment, you've got individual. These channels, right? I think they're probably just individuals. There's no reason to suppose they're being driven by an organised group. Some might be testing it out, but I think it's just ordinary people who've realised if you can present a shocking headline and you don't have to worry about honesty or anything, you can get a lot of views, particularly if it's anti-establishment. So at the moment, Labour are now the establishment. So you do a load of extreme stories that are utterly ludicrous, but that people want to hear, put it out on YouTube, get loads of views, and therefore loads of money. Get loads of views, loads of subscribers, and it's yeah, you're just getting money for that, and you think, what's it going to be like at the next election? Where I bet you it is organised groups. Organised groups will flood the zone with fake footage of Keir Starmer or whoever. He might not be leader then, mightn't he? But whoever is leading for Labour, the senior Labour MPs, fake footage of them going round and about saying things that won't be true. And they'll make it look quite real. That's my worry. So what are we going to do about it? The problem is Labour recognise this as a problem, but they keep talking about the need to get owners of social media platforms to take the issue more seriously and take them down. It's like, but are you going to force them to do that? Is the government, for example, going to say to Twitter, because Twitter is the worst of them, are they going to say to Twitter, you are going to come up with some tools to take this stuff down, or we will take Twitter down. It will not be operable in the UK. Because really that's what we should do. But I don't think that's what we're going to do. Hang on, what is? I've missed something here. Not sure there's such a thing as too much mushrooms. If Trump has vascular dementia, the average life expectancy is 5 years. I'm not after him dying. I will just be clear. I don't like it when people look forward to someone's death. I mean, a life is a life, right? It's not up to me to judge the quality of a life. I just don't want him ruining other people's lives. So I don't mind if because I'm not even wishing cognitive decline on him. To borrow a phrase, cognitive decline is upon him, whether he would wish it or not, or whether I would wish it or not. I just wouldn't mind if it became obvious that he couldn't carry out his duties, given that that's the way it's going anyway. I don't want him to die. In fact, I want him to go to prison, so I certainly don't want him to die. But trust me, dementia is not fun. Living with it is now my mother. I'm quite sure it's not. In fact, it's actually one of my fears. Even though at the moment I am getting old. I'm getting old before my time at the moment. I've done something to my neck. My neck muscle on my left hand side is absolutely killing me. I had no sleep last night because I cannot get my head in a comfortable position. So I've had it for a few days. On Thursday night, for example, I got up for a few hours, did some work till I was tired enough that I would just fall asleep through the pain, right? I tried the same thing last night, but I didn't get tired enough, so I just stayed up all night. So hopefully I'll get some rest tonight. But it's really, what's happened is I've aggravated it yesterday as well, because I had this thing from Thursday, and I was helping. We went to a craft fair yesterday where my wife sells her stuff. So even though I was avoiding the heavy stuff, I've obviously still aggravated it. Ibuprofen. I took some ibuprofen before the stream. It helps a little, but only a little. It's really bad. I pulled a neck in my sleep, a muscle in my neck in my sleep somehow. Tom was saying, well, I don't know how I did it at all. I know it can't have been in my sleep because it twinged a bit on Wednesday evening. All things considered, Wednesday was a terrible day for me. Everything went wrong on Wednesday for me. But yeah, so I had this little twinge when I went to bed on Wednesday. I had no idea what I'd done. I just thought, have I just jerked my head around too quickly at something, or I don't know. I certainly haven't had a blow to the neck or exerted myself on Wednesday. But ibuprofen gel, yeah, got that. In fact, do you know what? This doesn't deal with it either. The problem with this is I think I'm hurting myself more applying it to my neck than I'm getting benefit from it. Actually, is this the ibuprofen gel or is it something else? It just says pain relief gel. I forget what's in it. Maybe something else. Can't remember. But anyway, it's pain relief gel of some kind. Deep heat. No, I don't have any deep heat. And I'm certainly not using heroin. I definitely don't have any of that. Say Wednesday's the best day. It's Vault Day on Warcraft. Yeah, I had a bit of a reverse Vault on Wednesday because I lost my wedding ring in Tesco, which was a bit of a fact. Did I find the wedding ring? No. I won't find it. It's in Tesco somewhere. Either they will find it or they won't. I'll wait a bit and then I'll just have to order another one. Guessing you have to put heat on it. So I've done a couple of days of cold. Getting a bag of something out of the freezer and put it in a tea towel and put it on my neck at 20 minutes at a time, a few times a day. So I've done that. So it should now be heat. But there it is. Caught your new podcast. Will it be going out weekly? Maybe. So I think the plan is generally weekly. Obviously, as we're coming up to Christmas, that won't be definitive. I don't think we're going to be doing one at Christmas. But yes, the idea is to do them regularly. So yes, little plug. If you haven't seen it already, that channel. I've created a new YouTube channel. I'm doing the stuff with a TV producer called Nick Webb, who's done a few things, like Come Dine With Me and stuff. And he is annoyed, like a lot of us, about how little honest debate there is about Brexit or information in the media. So he's trying to help correct it. So we're going to try and do a few other things next year, but we're doing a podcast. I think next week we're going to be doing it on immigration, Brexit immigration. A good chiropractor, possibly. I mean, what are they going to do other than beat my neck? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a muscular thing. I haven't received a blow. I haven't done, and it is muscular because when I press on the muscle, it hurts. So it's muscular. It's just really bad. I didn't actually do myself this much injury when I used to do judo. So I'm obviously getting old and feeble now, and injure myself at the drop of a hat. Have I got my Christmas schedule sorted yet? No. In fact, this is what the injury is doing. It's quite weird, isn't it, that a neck injury, just a muscular neck injury, can be so debilitating. Like with other parts of the body, like even when I've put my back out in the past, which usually is related to lifting something too heavy, even when I've done that, there's someone, like you can find a comfortable position, right? You can find, but with this neck, I cannot find a comfortable position for it. So, and it is quite debilitating. So today, for example, I was supposed to be writing my script for Christmas Day. So I'm getting nice and ahead. Now, I have done some of it. I've not been completely idle, but I didn't get it finished. So there you go. Pharmacists, don't do codeine. It'll just make you constipated. I never have codeine anyway. The only pain relief I ever take, or in terms of like oral, is ibuprofen, actually. Because paracetamol, I mean, admittedly, I haven't had paracetamol for now decades, but when I was younger, paracetamol used to make me feel a bit unwell. It's actually really weird because when I talked to a doctor about it, I have had codeine recently, but that was prescribed from, I had a bit of sciatica last or earlier this year. I'm getting now that I'm getting towards 50, things are happening to me. Do you know what? I've been less fit than I am now and not suffer injuries. Now that I'm getting towards nearly 50, all of a sudden I'm getting injured all the time. What's that about? And I know I should be fitter, by the way. I'm nowhere near fit enough. So yeah, sorry, Tony, what's the name of your new channel? It's called, I've forgotten it now. Whatever floats your vote. I have actually put it on, so on this channel, if you go to the homepage, it is in the featured channels at the bottom, but you're not likely to come across that. I will keep plugging it in relevant videos. So when I do Brexit videos, I'm likely to plug it in Brexit videos for now. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I technically do still have some codeine from that sciatica episode. But anyway, wait till you hit 60, downhill after that. Well, thanks very much. I look forward to that. So they do have painkillers in the jungle. Parrots eat them all. Well, we of course develop a lot of our medicines from jungles, don't we, or rainforests as well, which is one of the tragedies of cutting back the rainforest. One is, of course, that we need it for oxygen. We can't just rely on phytoplankton. But the other is the massive amounts of biodiversity there in plant life. You know, so we're making plants extinct all the time, some of which have useful medicinal properties that we haven't yet explored. Am I sitting for too long? No, I actually don't sit for too long. No. I know you could imagine that, particularly I'm not very fit and healthy and all the rest of it. And I have a job that involves working at a computer all the time, but I do get up quite regularly. I do potter about. I mean, apart from anything else, when I'm recording, I go off and I record in the studio. That's stood up, for example, so I don't sit down for that. So unless I'm recording on this camera, I'm stood up for that. And I do, you know, when I'm cooking, for example, I mean, I'm on my feet for like a good hour or so when I'm cooking meals. broken up. Usually the meals I cook, I do a lot of braising, so the meals will take several hours, but at certain points I'll be stood over the stove for 15, 20 minutes at a time. So I do actually, despite the fact you wouldn't think so to look to me, I do actually get standy up and walkie time. Still not as much as I arguably should. I mean, arguably you shouldn't sit ever. Some people get standing desks, don't they? I'm not doing that. Yeah, Chris saying paracetamol makes you feel sick. I that's what I found when I was young, so I never took it. I would just put up with the pain. Not that I've ever had real pain when I was that age, but And then when I discovered ibuprofen at university, it was like magic. Oh, this is brilliant. But it is not working here. Oh, Katie there saying, just came up for me as a suggested video, so the algorithm is working. Well, there will be that. I mean, I obviously was sneaky in it, in that I put in the video tags. Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, I put in the video tags, a different bias than Phil Morehouse, and the usual tags I would put in for a Brexit video. But also, it is also clearly me. So, yes. We seem to be talking about pain relief now. We've moved on from Trump. We're talking about poppies. Chris there saying morphine also makes me feel nauseous. Only had it once, never again. So yeah. So I'll tell you what morphine did to me. When there's a good question down there. I'll come to that in one moment. So when I was having gastric band surgery some years ago now, just before I started the channel, this was before I started it properly anyway. It was while I was in hospital for it that I decided to do this channel properly. So when I woke up from the surgery, I'm not a good patient, by the way. I actually do have, I know like blokes will say this all the time, but I do actually have a reasonable tolerance for pain. But I'm not going to say high, I mean, that's silly. But I do have a reasonable tolerance. But when I came out of this surgery, just a shock was I felt that I was in so much. I actually wasn't in pain, but I felt that I was. And they put morphine in it. And the nurse said, I'm not giving you any more morphine. And then I actually said to her, well, could you shoot me in the head then, please? And then the surgeon said to me, he wanted to tell me something, but he says, you're in no fit state. I'll come round and tell you tomorrow. Which was to basically tell me I'd done a slightly different surgery because apparently my abdominal walls are too rigid. But anyway, let's get back into politics. There was keep standing, you get varicose veins. Well, you're supposed to move around. I mean, not just stand and stand, but you are supposed to move around. Sorry, there was actually a question and I've completely forgotten it. Oh, the new podcast, Whatever Floats Your Boat, excellent title, on YouTube. Yes, so what Nick has done is he's putting it on various podcast platforms because he knows about that. I don't know anything about that. And I've created a separate YouTube channel for it. It's still called Whatever Floats Your Boat. It's what it's called, whatever it is, on all the platforms. Sorry. Oh, so Professor Pigeons just said there, what do you think of Labour hiring an influencer company? So I don't know the details of what they've done. I approve of them trying to do social media properly, but they're still not getting it right by all accounts. Now, they've done something on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok myself, so I don't know how it's doing. But whether it's doing well in views, I don't think it's having much impact from reports I'm reading because they're still getting it wrong. I saw something in The Guardian, I've not read it yet, an opinion piece talking about the fact that you can go on TikTok, but the young people, because obviously if you're going on TikTok, it's mainly for a young audience. But the young people know the social contract is broken. And I haven't read the article. It's just an opinion piece. I don't read that many opinion pieces. I mostly try and read the news. So I haven't seen it. But just from the headline, I would say it's a fair point. What Labour need to be doing is talking about the social contract. If they are going to use TikTok to get through to young people, they must talk about, because Labour are actually doing quite a lot of things for young people. So it's absolutely true. Young people feel the social contract is broken for them. It is. Labour are actually doing something to try and fix it, but they need to open a dialogue about it. And from what I gather, I've not seen any of their efforts on TikTok, but I've heard descriptions of it, and it's like, it's the corporate bullshit. It's the corporate bullshit, right? So I approve of them getting specialist advice on how to engage on social media. My issue is they're not getting the right advice. Here's my issue, right, with social media. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. There are lots of consultancy firms who will offer to advise businesses or political parties, whoever will pay, they will offer to advise them on social media strategy, and they will happily tell you all sorts of things about how to develop a social media strategy. I would say this: how can you tell the difference between someone who just put together a consultancy firm and doesn't know what they're talking about and someone who does know what they're talking about, right? How do you tell? 2 tests. Technically 3, but 2 tests. The first is ask them, the person who's your consultant, person advising you, ask them to show you a social media platform they built up from scratch. If they cannot show you that they have actually done it themselves, why use them? Because I'll tell you something, there are YouTubers, and there are people on different social media platforms, but of course I focus on YouTube, right? So there are people on YouTube who do SEO content. I may do it at some point. And that means search engine optimization. So they'll do channels which advise you on social media strategy, right? And those people will, if they're any good, they will quite happily let you know what their own, because these people didn't just turn around one day and say, oh, I'll do a YouTube channel on YouTube channels. No, they did their own YouTube channel, sometimes more than one, successfully. And then they said, I know what I'm doing, so I will do a channel to help other people. And some of those people they'll charge, they will actually offer their services as consultants. So what Labour should be doing on YouTube, for example, which they're still not taking YouTube seriously, they should go onto YouTube, they should find one of these people, look them up, find a channel that they've built up themselves so that they can prove that they know what they're talking about, and hire them. There are people on YouTube who do SEO stuff, and they do that for free, of course. They put that out there for free. I mean, they're getting money from it because it's getting views, right? So it's monetized. But you can tell that they've actually got their own successful social media platforms because they don't, you know, they'll put it in there as part of their, what you might call a testimonial. The other type of person who knows what they're talking about is an academic who has just interviewed shitloads, I mean hundreds of content creators, and scientifically researched what are the good and bad practices. So they will also know what they're talking about. But Labour should be asking me. Well, they should certainly be asking someone who's proven that they can do it. They shouldn't be getting in consultancy firms unless, like, if that was me, right? If I was hiring a consultancy firm to advise on, let's say, TikTok, because I don't know TikTok, right? So let's say I was Labour's head of communications and I wanted to develop a TikTok strategy. I couldn't do that because I don't even have TikTok, right? So I would hire someone in to advise me on it. But if a consultant came along and I was considering them, I would say to them, show me your TikTok channel. Show me it. And if they can't show me a good one that they have built up from scratch, then I'm going to go, well, you don't know what you're talking about. At best, they're just regurgitating what other people have come up with. I don't want second-hand information if I'm paying. I want someone who knows what they're doing. Anyway. Talking of youth, what happened to the 16-27-year-old vote? I don't know what the 27 is. But the 16-year-old vote, I mean, that's in the manifesto. It will be coming. It might be coming next year. It's in, I've forgotten what they call it now. Can someone remind me? There's an elections bill. It might actually be called the elections bill. I can't remember. But there is a bill that's coming. I'm not sure if it's coming in the new year or in the next session of Parliament, but it's coming next year. and I presume that will cover the voting age going to 16. Oh, you meant 16, 17. I see, typo. Yeah, so that will be coming. I assume it's going to be in the elections bill. And I think that is coming imminently. I don't think they're waiting until the end of the Parliament for that. But again, until it's published, we don't know. And I don't know if they're going to publish it. Because remember, after Christmas, there's only so much time left before the next session of Parliament. I mean, if you think about it, so we're coming up to, we've got like one more week, then it's Christmas recess. They come back in January, not even right at the start of January, but in January. And then, you know, we've got, I assume they're going to prorogue Parliament just before the May elections, the local and parliamentary elections for Wales and Scotland. And then start the new session of Parliament, presumably in May, I guess is how it'll work. Apparently Starmer's TikTok videos are very good. So I've seen people suggesting they're not. Now, again, it depends what you mean by good. Do you mean by good as in it's attracting a lot of curious views, in which case fine, but you need quality views, right? One thing I do on this channel, I know how to chase clickbait views. And this, remember, when it's clickbait has negative connotations. There's good clickbait and bad clickbait. Bad clickbait is when you say it's about one thing, it's about another. That's bad for your channel even, because people will go on it, they'll find out it's not what it was promised and they'll click off it. Well, your retention's then crap and YouTube will conclude that your channel is rubbish. But there is good clickbait. I mean, clickbait literally just means you're going to get a very high rate of clicks on it. When people see your thumbnail, they're going to click on it at a high rate. So you want that. I know how to do that. If I wanted to do that for every video, I could do that. If I had no shame. But I'm trying to cultivate a particular type of audience, which is specifically one that is interested in finding out what is actually happening in politics and wants that information in order to either have informed discussions with other people or inform their own voting decisions. So I'm not just after clicks for the sake of clicks. So you do have to be very aware of, if you get a lot of views, are they useful views? Are they valuable views? Are they helping you to achieve something? So Labour need to make sure that if they're on TikTok to get young views. Now, if they are getting lots of views, I'm not going to say that's a bad thing at all, because views, of course, increases the chance of you getting follows, subscribes, stuff like that. But you need to get some messages out as well. Now, I do always say engagement over messaging, but you do need the messages. Are they engaging the right people on TikTok? Actually, can I see? I don't have TikTok. How easy would it be? Oh, cry my neck. Absolute. Let me see how easy it is to find them. Oh, here we go. Quite easy, it turns out. Right, hold on. See, I don't even understand TikTok. So I'm presented with a load of videos, but there's no dates on them. Hold on, if I click on one, what date's this? Oh, come on, this is shit. Right, let me just put it up. Let me just show you. Right. I'm not an expert on TikTok, so when I say it's shit, I don't know what's good and what's not on TikTok. But the latest one surely is not good. So the latest one is just, you click on it, it's a picture of Keir Starmer as a lawyer, and then it just slides to him as Prime Minister. Like, 7-second thing. Has that got loads of views? Where the bloody hell do you see views? Can you see views? I am a complete numbskull on TikTok, by the way. I've got no idea what I'm doing on TikTok. I can see it's got 92 likes, 19 comments, 5 bookmarks. Cannot see pissing views. Anyway, get rid of that. What's this? I mean, it's attempts at meme stuff. How Labour must have felt when they created the NHS. So I suppose the message there is they're emphasising, again, young people may not be aware Labour created the NHS. Maybe that's what that's about. When did that came out 2 hours ago, 711 likes. So, I mean, probably it's got a lot of views if it's got 711 likes. Why can't you see the views? Does anyone know TikTok? What do I think of being the King's Speech this year? There won't be a King's Speech this year. The King's Speech will be the next session of Parliament, so it'll be next year, I think in May. Let's just get rid of this. I don't get TikTok. I'll just check for you on TikTok. TikTok do carousels, but doubt it works well on desktop. Okay, fine. So, but in the King's Speech, I mean, who knows? I do know the elections bill, if it's not introduced this session, will be in the King's Speech. Labour need to really press on with that. In terms of other stuff, I'm not sure. There's still plenty of legislation promised in the manifesto. The big stuff should be out of the way, although I would argue the elections bill will also be big stuff. Is there a TikToker in the house? Yeah. Is it just TikTok they're targeting? So, maybe. My issue is with this, again, they should be targeting all social media platforms. I think they might also be doing Instagram, which again is another one for you. You know, it's like what Labour have done is they've worked out that young people get most of their news from social media, and they know that young people are mostly on TikTok and Instagram, and so they're targeting those. But they need to understand that they cannot surrender the space for any voters at all. And also, 45,000 views, that one. Was that the first one? Okay. Well, I mean, that might be all right. I don't know. Although, I will just say they're not comparable to YouTube views, because in YouTube, on a long-form video, you have to get someone actually click on it to count as a view. And they still have to watch it for a few seconds before it counts as a view. Whereas, on that, they just have to scroll onto it, don't they? Oh, do you mean the King's Christmas message? Oh, we know what that's about. It's about cancer. He's already done a bit of a speech about his cancer, which has got some engagement. It's got people to click on that new website. So, yeah, I think his Christmas message is very likely to be cancer heavy, or talking about anyway. There's been more AI YouTube of well-known people like Lawrence O'Donnell and Rachel Maddow in the last few days. So here's where I just have to point out, I have no idea who those two people are, by the way. I don't watch television. I'm not really into pop culture these days. Any pop culture reference I have used in my videos is always very old, because it's a long time since I've watched television or paid any attention to celebrity culture. Not that I was ever into celebrity culture itself, but you know what I mean. So I have no idea who those people are. But I think the point you're making is that for some people on YouTube, there's more AI stuff of them than there are them themselves. Reading between the lines, Charles, on the way out, I think, well, as soon as you get cancer, unfortunately, you are sort of that anyway. But I gathered there was talk of it clearing a bit, so it may not be imminent. But again, it's one of these things, particularly at a certain age, if you get it, you know, you like talking about time rather than cures. Trying to catch up with things here. But I mean, that's what I would say. Labour are absolutely right to get some professional social media consultancy. I just don't think they're getting the right people. I mean, I'm not going to judge their TikTok stuff, right? Because it's a platform I'm not familiar with, and it's an audience I do not target. I target an older audience. I quite like it if young people do watch my stuff anyway. I get some young people watching it. But again, I actually target the key swing voters, which is those people middle-aged to elderly that are interested, if have taken interest in politics. Let's have a look at my audience again, remind myself. So yeah, you can see, and this is what gets me about Labour's social media crew, and they have no idea. Because a couple of years ago, when Graham and I were trying to get through to them, and they were saying, "Why aren't you using YouTube? Why is almost no Labour MP or the Labour Party using YouTube properly?" And they say things like, "Oh, our target audience aren't there." And it's like, have you seen this? This is my channel, right? 13 to 17-year-olds, certainly not target because they can't even vote at the moment, 0.1%. 18 to 24, that's your key young, that's the people they're trying to get through to on TikTok. 1.6%, I have a few, hardly any. 25 to 34, 6.5%. 35 to 44, you've got to be 35 before you're even in like double figures, 12.2%. 45 to 54, 17.7. So basically, collectively, what I've got here is 64.9%. So 65% of my viewers are 55 or older. These are the key high voting rate groups, right? So the only distressing thing about my audience is it is the vast majority of men. I know there are some women who it actually, do you know what? The chat I find on my live streams flatters me because there's a higher proportion of women in the chat than there, and I know I won't know who some of you are at all, but some of you make it clear in the thing whether you're male or female. And there seems to be a higher proportion of females in the chat than there are watching the videos. But it is what it is. So that's the demographic. But that doesn't necessarily mean that would have to be theirs because, you would also get like, sorry, we're all, well, no, but it's a good, well, I don't know whether being old is a good thing. It's not when you get pains in the neck. Like when a pain in the neck is no longer figurative, it's not good. But older people vote in larger numbers and, have been around a bit. They've experienced a few different governments and they're key swing voters. It's not, I would never say Labour should be ignoring the young. They should be targeting the young and they should be on TikTok and they should be on Instagram. But they should also be on YouTube. YouTube is huge and they're completely missing out on it. It's a bit like, let me show you another example. Who was that? I'll find it out. Don't worry about it. The guy who did the biscuits thing. I talked about this last week or something, didn't I? Let me find him. Gordon McKee, that's it. So he's done this thing. He's actually hired someone who knows what they're doing because he's got loads of views. Millions of views on Twitter as a result of it. Now, he also has, I keep saying I need to email him. Oh, crap. I'll try to do it in a Google search. That won't get me very far. Even though it's the same company. Right, so. If I put up his channel. So that's him. That is definitely him. That's what it looks like. But all he's got on his YouTube channel is, which he's clearly started recently, he's got, so he's trying it. He's done something here, but he's done it as a short form. He's done it as like on phone format. He shouldn't do that. He's got shorts for that. Do that for shorts. So he's put some shorts on, right? What's his most popular short? 2.9 thousand views, but he's only just started, right? Build up. So he's put a few shorts on. He's done the biscuits things on there, but he hasn't done it as a long form video. And what he has done as a long form video, which again, he's making an effort. These videos show effort. They're not bad, but don't do them in this format. What he needs to understand, again, if I'll just get rid of that. Actually, how many subscribers? He hasn't got many subscribers. He needs to do more stuff, right? If I go, what am I looking for now? Right. Again, so in terms of how people watch my content, this is how people watch my content. So mobile phone, 37%. So that's fine. For people watching on mobile phone, doing it that format will work fine. And you would do that for shorts anyway. I do that for shorts. But then you've got 28% on the computer. It's not that good on a computer. You've got 22% on TV. It's really not that good on TV. And 12.7% on tablet, where it probably doesn't matter one way or the other. So, 2/3 nearly of my viewers don't want it in that sort of mobile aspect. But it is what it is. Ow, Jesus, my neck. Sorry, I'm at least not swearing. I've done a lot of swearing the last couple of days. Phil, for US news, you should click onto Brian Tyler Cohen, very influential, very fair. So I do follow a few, including that, for US stuff. There are a few US channels I follow. If I can, it's easier for me to turn my body than my neck. Let me read out I follow a spread of commentators and news outlets in America on YouTube. So there's Vaush, who's an interesting character. David Pakman, The Daily Show. I've Had It. That's an interesting one. A couple of women do that one. They're quite interesting. Quite a lot of these channels, though, I will just say, they tend to hype the shit out of things. That's my only downside with it. But they nonetheless, they do nonetheless give you some useful snippets. Yeah, Midas Touch is in there. What else have we got? Can't find it. Oh, Kat Abagazala. But I followed her really because she's trying something new in terms of campaigning. So she's a Democratic candidate. She's sort of she's trying to do a social media campaign. Anyone else? Can't tell. I think that might be it. If I'm going down here, we're talking about ones who don't put up content very often now. So, but I follow a few. Starmer could combine social media with politics and fluffy cats labelled would smash it. I mean, the thing is, they've tried that a little bit. They just don't lean into it enough. He's got cats. I don't just mean Larry the cat. He's got his own cat, right, in Downing Street. I don't know what Larry thinks of it. And he did, when he first got it, he did put something on YouTube about it. But they... Nick's saying, we watch Pac-Man. You should do a Christmas video where you talk about the channels you follow and why. I mean, I suppose I could. I don't know how interesting that would be. Maybe it would. Who knows? I'll tell you what. If because of this bloody neck, because it is actually slowing me down, it has actually slowed my work rate down. It's mad, isn't it, that a neck ache stops you doing work that essentially just involves sitting at a desk and typing. But it does. So yeah, if I, because I have actually got some ideas of Christmas videos, but if I end up not getting to do them, I suppose something like that would be quick, wouldn't it? For maybe a Boxing Day video or something. Larry the cat should do all of Downing Street's public announcements. Maybe. I think the problem with that, though, is cats just do whatever the hell they like. They're saying, in terms of your subscribers then, I mean, the minority female below 35. Certainly you are, yes. Yes. The majority would be certainly over 55. Stop watching Midas because it's too biased. They all of these channels that I have read out they don't do balance, which is a problem. But again, where do you go for balance? Your best bet is something like maybe CNN or NBC. I mean, then I'm not saying they're unbiased, but you might get at least a bit more objectivity. It's really quite difficult. Phil's speech like the King's speech. No, I am doing... I'm doing a Brexit video at Christmas because why not? When is this Hegseth video coming out? I don't know. It keeps getting pushed back. Because it's fairly evergreen. He hasn't been sacked yet, and I don't think he's going to get sacked imminently. So it's the sort of thing. I've had it for a week now. I still need to keep finishing it off. I keep adding little bits to it. It probably won't be tomorrow. I'm thinking tomorrow. What have I got planned for tomorrow? I've got one on US farmers again, because I'm drawn to that like a fly to shit, quite frankly. And then I think for a second video, I'm doing thick racists embarrassing themselves again, including Elon Musk. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do one of them as my short, and then I might do a longer one, because I'm going to. I've basically going to do a little mini trawl. I'm not trying to copy Forte and Perkis, but I've just thought to myself, I have had to suffer on Twitter this week. I have had to read an inordinate. I go on Twitter specifically to read what the right wing are saying, including the far right. I go there specifically to find out what they're saying. But I also follow experts that are still sticking around as well. But this last week, it's just been so obvious that they've been amplifying anything that attacks the EU. It's just been constant. So I'm going to go through a few of them. Find Midas to concentrate on minutiae and create a mountain out of a molehill. They 100% do that. They 100% do that. That is what they're doing. It's actually what Labour should be doing, because it's that relentless positivity, isn't it? It's that, oh, we've achieved this really great victory today based on like this tiny little thing that's meaningless. So, but that's what political parties should do. It's positivity. People, I keep saying, the stuff that does best on any social media, includes YouTube, is the stuff where there's an emotional connection. Now, here's where I go wrong, because I am not trying to impose vibes on people. I'm trying to actually engage people's brains. But I also know that's not the best way to get engagement. So it's like you have to lean into it a little bit sometimes. But that's like the cost. It's what you need to do, not what you want to do. But at the same time, like I keep saying, it's not just bad news that gets engagement. Good news can as well. Positivity. People say things like outrage is what drives engagement. No, emotion is what drives engagement. It can be positive emotion. If I were to do a channel that just focused on relentless positivity about every little thing that Reform UK were embarrassing themselves over, or Labour were doing that's really great, I could probably get a viable channel out of that. I just don't think I would get the right viewers. I might get more viewers, but I wouldn't get the right ones. Warren Pagan saying, it seems the Defence Secretary has said we must prepare for war. So it's not. I'll correct that in a moment. I'll read the rest of it. Will we likely see messaging, poor as it may be, for the public along these lines? So I will just point out, it's not the Defence Secretary who said that. It is a Department of Defence Minister. It's Al Cairns, who's a former colonel. So he was a bit of a high flyer in the army. In fact, apparently, I was just reading in his Guardian piece they've written about him this weekend. He left the army to stand as a candidate unexpectedly because he was about to be promoted brigadier, like in Doctor Who. I've never actually come across a real brigadier in the wild, but I know we have them. So yeah, he's a military man. So he's the one who said it. I assume the fact that he said it, I am assuming he's not talking out of turn. I would expect that a colonel with 25 years experience in the army is disciplined enough not to talk out of turn. So I assume it is also government position that we need to prepare. But I will point one thing out. So you have got some countries at the moment, like, for example, France, that are talking about at least voluntary, not conscription, but like voluntary service, national service, bringing it back again. It's creating a bit of a backlash. The UK government has categorically ruled that out. But at the same time, yes, there are discussions at government level about how we prepare the public in the event of conventional or unconventional war, like a cyber attack, is most likely to be the thing that presages it, isn't it? Suddenly your phone doesn't work. You can't get your banking app to work. Things like that. I can't do videos. That'd be terrible. I'll tell you what I find interesting. If we go back to the earlier thing about AI in social media and how I am fearing it's just going to swamp social media at the next election if Labour don't do something. And I'm not saying it's easy. I know a lot of people get frustrated that they don't seem to be doing enough. I do appreciate that Trump is bullying the crap out of us. And outside the EU, that is it's not an easy thing to deal with. But we're going to have to do something. But I am interested in this. Which way is it going to go on social media? Because there are some people arguing, and both of them are plausible. There are some people arguing that AI is just going to take over because we're going to get to the point where someone can just ask AI to produce 40 videos a day, bang them out, minimum input from them, and it'll come complete with scripts. It'll come complete with voicing that'll sound perfectly good. It might even come with an avatar. And there's other people who argue that people will actually be turned off AI if it becomes too ubiquitous. And at that point, is it a case that only the good quality stuff that you can't tell it's AI does well? And then if someone then finds out it is AI, all of a sudden doesn't, do people then, when they're trying to find information, go, well, does this channel do live streams? Because that's the only way you can really tell, isn't it? Or what if AI avatars can do live streams? What then? What then? But I don't know which way it's going to go. I got emailed by a Nigerian brigadier once offering me loads of money. Not a prince. That's a bit of a downgrade. I'd be insulted if I were you. It's supposed to be a Nigerian prince. Say you're picky. Guess your post on Erasmus program might attract more younger viewers. Oh, well, might be able to tell. Although it's probably come out too soon. I'll tell you what is interesting about that Erasmus. So we've run out of time, but I'll just go over this as my last thing. I'll tell you what was interesting about that. Where was it now? Let me find it. Here we go. I didn't think it would do all that well. It's actually done okay. It's on 35,000 views at the moment, which after a couple of days, that's okay. I'm happy with that. I've had to lower my standards in the last year and a half, but 35,000 videos is fine for me. Let me see if I can actually get some data on it. Can I find data? But I didn't think it would do that well, specifically because it's something that's for young people. Oh yeah, I can. No, I did not get more younger viewers for it. In fact, looking at it, I arguably got fewer younger viewers for it. So no, it still attracted my same audience. It's a bit like, you might imagine that the content I do on United States politics gets more US viewers. It doesn't. Let me just do a little check. I mean, the odd one might. I'm not saying, but if I look just really quickly at my audience, so my general audience for the past month-ish, last few weeks, has been 6% watching from the USA. So if I then click on a bog standard video that I did on US politics, let's find one that's clearly US politics. Not one that's a bit of a mix of US and EU. Here we go. Trump scams mag. Actually, that video did really well. This may be a bit outsized, but let me just have a check. Yeah, that one got way more US viewers, but they generally don't. Just trying to find. The problem is I haven't done. Oh no, here's one that might. No, his might be a better one. Yeah, this one. So this was the one on will Congress vote to block the invasion? So that's clearly US politics, right? That is US politics. It's of interest to others, but it's US politics. So in the last 4 weeks, 6% of my viewers have been from the US. For that video, which is, I mean, it's about Congress, so it's clearly domestic US. Obviously, it's also relevant to Venezuela, but Venezuela's not going to sell views on this channel. Only 4.1% US viewers. So you do generally find there's not really, if it's a video that really goes viral, that does really well, then yeah, you'd expect a few extra because you're getting a lot of new viewers. But by and large, yeah, I don't get more US viewers just because I'm doing more US content. Which is why whenever I do content on the United States, like the one I did earlier today, bombed. Both of today's videos are bombed, if I'm honest. But I have got an injury, is my excuse. But, you know, my US videos do really well and really badly. The ones that do really well are the ones where people in Europe, because most of my viewers are in the UK and then wider Europe, and I've got a good number from the US and Canada. But most 2/3 from like the UK usually. It sort of varies between about 60 and 67%. A good chunk from usually about 20% from Europe, and then about 8 to 10% from Canada straight the United States, and then a smattering from elsewhere. And so if it's a story that has relevance to people here, like on tariffs or something like that, or if Trump's going to like fall, then that does well. Whereas if I do one that is sort of interesting, but people don't necessarily see it as having a direct relevance to our life in Europe, it doesn't do well. Am I able to tell if someone watches the whole video or just a snippet? I don't get data about individuals, only like broad trends. So I can see retention data. So I can look, for example, it'll tell me, in fact, I'll just show you as a last quick little thing if you're interested. Let's find a video. Let's do the House of Lords one here. This will do. So what it'll show you, and this is actually a really good tool for people on YouTube. People that do YouTube videos don't use this tool enough. Certainly when you're starting up and you're growing, you should always use this tool. Oops, go back up there. Trying to get that bigger. So this is your retention graph. Now the reason the video's there and it's playable is what you would do. You can see here, so the retention average percentage viewed 55.5%. So the average viewer watched just over half of it. But you can also see there's other little metrics here. 83% of your viewers are still watching around the 30-second mark. That's actually not bad, because often if this is what on YouTube, you get people to click on it and you might think you've got them then. No, you haven't. You've got a few seconds to convince them that they were right to click on it, otherwise they'll click off it and watch something else. That's where a lot of the political parties go wrong on YouTube. They do their YouTube content and they try and do it in a fancy way, and they try and copy television content. But with television, someone sits down, they look at a channel, they can flick through channels, sure, but they'll generally give it a bit. Whereas on YouTube, they don't. And also on YouTube, which you don't get on telly, there's like half a dozen other videos for you to click on as well. So YouTube is actively encouraging viewers to watch a different video if you let them down. So you've got that. But then you can see, I mean, where it drops off there, that's when I start doing my please subscribe and all the rest of it. So obviously then people stop because the content's ended. So as soon as I say, let me know what you think. But up until that point, 41%, which is, again, that's okay. That's okay. But the reason why this is playable here is so that, see, this is fine. This is how it should look. You've got a couple of little bumps there where someone may have like shared a timestamp, so those little bumps tell you about the particularly interesting bits, because it suggests that people are sharing not the whole video but from that point, because you can obviously share a YouTube link from a particular time. So where you get a little bump up, that's what's happening, because more people are watching at that point, from that point. So if you wanted to do a short based on it, I should do more of this, by the way. If you want to do a short, you could probably look at that and you could then clip that maybe and do a short of that. But also, if ever, so you're always going to get a decline in the first 30 seconds, because there will always be some people who just click off. They either just don't like the sound of your voice, they don't like your introduction, there's something they don't like, they just, whatever. But after that, it should be more gentle. Now, if at any point in a video you see a drop before the end here, because that's more notable, that's your calls to action at the end, video's done. If you see a drop at any point between here and here, that's not a gentle decline, go to that point in the video, watch it, because you done goofed. Watch it, find out what you did, and never do it again. I use VPN most of the time. Does this affect me? Well, it certainly affects my data, yes. How could it not? But yeah, but again, only so many people will do that. So I think the stats are probably valid. But anyway, we'll leave it there. We'll run out of time. I'm going to go and try and find some more things to put on my neck. But thanks for coming on, everyone. Have a great rest of day. Until next time, I'll see you later.